Welcome to Orchestrated Gratitude. Sharing appreciation and gratitude is a hallmark trait of the Orchestrated Connecting community. I'm the Gratitude Junkie, Chris Palmore, the founder of GratitudeSpace.com, and with my co-host, the Conductor of Connectors, David Homan, we bring you a weekly series dedicated to sharing gratitude towards the friends made through these orchestrated connections. This is Orchestrated Gratitude. Hi, I'm Chris Palmore. Welcome to Orchestrated Gratitude. This is episode 6, and I've got my good friend here and co-host David Homan. How you doing, man?
Doing great, Chris. How about you?
Good. It's an excellent day here. You know, I didn't have to go out to work today, and I got to kind of sleep in, you know, and relax into the day. Good things for sure.
Beautiful. Well, I've had to go out back forth to New York in cold, windy weather, and I'm sleep deprived. But it doesn't mean I still can't have a good day.
That's right. You gotta appreciate it either way, right?
Yep.
So speaking about that, this episode is about community values. So go ahead and tee it off, man.
Sure. So we're looking at everything in the context of gratitude. And gratitude comes with a balance because we live in this yin and yang world. And so in studying communities, right, my orchestrated connecting community represents people who represent hundreds of communities, representing hundreds to tens or hundreds of thousands of people. Studying what makes their community work, I came up with a few things. One is the communities that last have diversity. They have diversity of age, gender, focus, income level. They cannot be homogenous and thrive because at some point that homogeneity means that there's nothing new, there's no innovation in what they have. This other part of this is the most fascinating one, which is the element of risk. We think of, we want to belong, right? There's a parent association at my school. I'm a parent, I should be there. I have an alumni association for my grad school or my college. Like, I'm an alumni, I should be there. But being there, belonging there, and adding value are very different. So in the communities I run and the ones that I choose to be a part of, there's always an element of risk, a rule system that you need to opt in to obey, not for things to do wrong, although that often is the case, but really how to lean in and lean forward. And so when you run communities, when you're part of them, you have to take that practice of gratitude to recognize those who are leaning in, those who are really adding value, as opposed to those who are complacent, apathetic, or just not really interested besides saying they belong. Because I believe you judge people by action, and communities are best judged by the collective action that they take.
Right. And if you're just showing up because you feel like you have to, opposed to wanting to be there and actually adding value to that space, those are two different, like you said, you're seeing two different things. The community's putting out two different vibes. So when we see people, if you are a leader and you see somebody that's adding value, it's a two-way street where you want to share the gratitude to the person because you appreciate the value they're adding to the whole collective. And obviously, when somebody shows up to be there, you can feel that because as somebody that wants to be there, you know what I mean? Like there's that added force there.
And this is where it's the power of choice. You can give people two choices. You can give people a choice to be proactive, or you can give them a choice to leave. In communities as a whole, any community I've studied, don't give anyone an in-between choice. People have a choice to listen to this or to turn it off. They have a choice to watch a minute or more. But when you give people no choice, their back is against the wall. And when you give them too many choices, they don't feel like they belong. So that's why in community value systems, you really have to lean in with giving people the power of choice to amplify each other's value, to really champion each other. And for people who run communities or organize events, anywhere people show up, don't just say thank you for being here. Give people a greater purpose for why they're there, and then show the graciousness for that.
So speaking to something like, recently in your community, could you give an example of what you just said?
Sure. I'll give you the two parts of the community rule system for my community. So the first is how to define the membership. And mine is very unique. but it works, and there are 847 people active in it. To be in my community, you have to be described by me or anyone who wants to bring you in as an action-oriented natural giver that either I or somebody else would leave my children with. You have to be too busy to have time for it, which means when you show up, you're choosing to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be a natural giver, which means every conversation I have or somebody has with you, you lean in for what you can give to the other, not what you can get out of it. And then the final one, which was the one where I really understood the power of trust, comes to what it means when somebody would trust my children sight unseen with somebody else I've never met. So the combination of that is the value system. It is also the risk, because if somebody introduces me to somebody I don't feel is high integrity or want something from me or to get to somebody through me, and that's the point of the conversation, that person has wasted my time.
Mm.
That person has wasted the other person's time, and they've lost trust. And in my
Right.
community, when you lose trust, you lose the value system, which means I then question whether that person is part of the community I want because they didn't lean in with those values. Other part of this, just to go real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Have I told you, Chris, much about my theory of honoring the chain of connections?
I don't think so. Please.
So I know we covered this a little bit, but in my community, it's very, very explicit, which is if you see yourself as somebody who has been taken advantage of, victimized, put to the sidelines as somebody who's made powerful introductions, then you can't take the action in my community that would put somebody else in that situation. That's the purpose of it. So when we talk about honoring the chain of connections, it means that at least 5 deep, back to understanding the person or the people who were the catalyst for us speaking here today, for you sending this to a friend who listens and then reaches out to me, and therefore you're the origin of that next connection. When we honor that, back to the community value system of risk and purpose, you have 2 choices: to choose to honor that role or not. And if you're choosing not to be honorable, where's your integrity? And if you don't have your integrity, where's the trust? And that's the balance in my community of how I built a system that is very, very specific and very organic for people to say they get it, but then really challenging to live in practice, because every time something substantive happens from intros I make or somebody else makes, you have to lean in to build community through honoring that chain and that extension of introductions. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm just thinking, like, if someone were to come, I guess it's because the community is its own community. It isn't like, you would, if I had somebody in life and I was thinking, oh, they would be good for the community, I would be the one to assess that straight up, opposed to if somebody were to come to me and they're like, I want to enter this community, but then I have to think about, and I know that they're not a good fit. I guess with graciousness, how would I would just let them down nicely and just explain to them that, I don't how would somebody handle that? I mean, graciously, who knows, right? I guess with kid gloves.
It's a really good question, right? The hardest thing is to tell somebody no.
Right.
The harder thing is to tell somebody you should have said no. Because when that happens, the egg on your face reflects on you and reflects on their inability to see what they need to do to be of certain standards for certain groups. And this is an idea of elitism, right? This is an idea of what the golden standard is. In my community, you have to be somebody who makes intros all the time. That's a given. And you have to be somebody who really gets an opt-in for that to happen. You have to be somebody who does that so well, everyone thinks that that person is the one that makes the best intros in their lives. My community just fits that into a glove where everyone is that person, and we've never had each other before. So if you're trying to filter somebody and they don't seem like the person that makes those type of intros, that's the thing you tell them no on. You say, this is a community of a certain scale. There's lots of other communities, and let's touch base again when we think you're ready to meet David and engage in this way, because everyone in this community is so busy, it has to be a real supreme value of their time to connect with others.
Right. And that's in showing that there's a gratitude in there, because it's gratitude to you because I respect your time and our friendship, and it's gratitude to the individual asking because I'm being honest about the situation and being straightforward. I would even take it a step further, and if somebody to come to me, I would maybe I could say, well, how can I help you another way?
Correct.
Maybe pivot myself out of the if you know what I mean, pivot into like, well, okay, this right now isn't going to be a fit right now for whatever reason. What maybe get to how can I help you in another way? That way, at least I'm still,
it's really true, right?
assisting if I can.
so let's close out with this thought, right? Because you really led with it. If you take that stance to offer somebody help while telling them no, the true strength of their character and integrity is to take that, to listen and learn from it, and then come back with gratitude to you for giving them the honest advice other people had not.
Right. I think that's a beautiful way to close up. That's a beautiful way to just that's the beauty in that situation, right? Like you just said it perfectly. I'm going to stop babbling now. So yeah, I really love that. I love that you're saying, like, what you just said was really great, man. It's almost like you're hitting the ball back in their court because you're still playing, and we're going to know at that moment, how they react's really going to tell the story.
It's the key to everything. We learn from mistakes. We don't learn from success, because people who were successful learned from their mistakes to get there. Didn't take no for an answer, but approached that learning process with a graciousness that only comes with true resilience.
Beautiful, man. Well, thanks for spending this morning with you, David. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you. I'm Chris with David. Just reminded everybody, stay grateful.